Well, hello and welcome. Finally, it's been a battle of odds to bring you the final live training on my 5-part mini series where I wanted to talk about some of the things that most animal communications and basic foundation books don't really teach you. And I hope so far you've got a lot of value out of it. Thank you for your patience. And I know I'm coming to you earlier today because we have load shedding that started last night, which prevented me from actually having any power in the house, let alone coming to you on Facebook Live. But I really wanted to spend some time today answering your questions on what's been coming up for you. I so enjoyed reading your feedback when you've been trying to practice and use some of these new tools. And I'm just thrilled that I think it was Violet who said that she had great success in negotiating through two-way interspecies communication and compassion and asking a so-called pest to move out of underneath her house. So I'd love to hear your success stories and what you'd like to know more of. I don't see anybody on here. So if you're going to listen to this on the replay, post your questions and comments below, and I will be happy to either do a webinar, if that is something that you'd be interested in, where we really just talk about the things that are concerning you and what you'd like to learn more of as far as an integrative, natural approach to keeping your animals happy, healthy, and vital, and also to hone your birthright, which is to communicate with all species non-verbally. Remember, your first line of communication is energy and the felt sense, not the 5 senses that oftentimes filter or limit us from hearing what our animals want from us. So I don't see any questions so far, but I got one from Kelly Tyler, who asked if I would speak to her beautiful dog Royston and ask him if you are in any pain, if so, where, and why do you feel so anxious around strangers? What can we do to help? So thank you for asking, Kelly, and wanting to sort of deepen into understanding, a deeper understanding of how your dog is wired to engage and experience life through him. It's a little bit of a big topic, which I go through in depth in my Being Human Through Animal Communication classes, which is an online home study program. But for now, just know that when you can learn to do a medical intuitive scan, it's not as complicated or difficult as it sounds. It, again, is very, very simple when you drop any expectations or projections around what you think is going on from a rational or a learned point of view. With all the information out there, I know it's difficult to know what's light and true. So I always say go back to trusting your body through your yes and your no answers, and ask your animal. Oftentimes when you have that clear line of communication, Kelly, you will often take on a kinesthetic awareness of that in your own body. So again, if you are just learning how to do animal communications, or ask your animal directly, what's troubling them or where are they feeling pain, just dropping into the heart, making that heart-to-heart connection, and then using the trauma to trust process of just allowing the thoughts to be there, and creating that space where basically you're saying to your animal, you can be safe here. I've got you. You can be calm. You can be peaceful. Oftentimes they'll say, but I can't because my back foot hurts, or my ears hurt, and I can't be peaceful because this is upsetting me or bothering me, or I'm in pain. So I will do a body scan in a second, but I just wanted to sort of give you that insight into knowing that a lot of times when you really are what we call gestalting, you are sharing that experience of whatever's going on in your animal's body, you will feel that, or you'll have a word come up, or a shooting pain, or you'll just get a felt sense that that's where it's coming from. And oftentimes when we do hands-on body processes, I'll say, follow the energy. So there's no right or wrong way or place to put your hands. It really is, again, trusting that your intuitive body sensation, your body's innate, natural, built-in wisdom to keep you in a position of thriving will take you where you need to put your hands on to heal. Or you'll just notice your gaze goes to the back of the spine, or to the tail, or to the ears, or to a tooth. And then you can get very specific to ask, which tooth is it? Or you'll feel it in your own body. So practice that, because as much as I'm here to support you through my my private sessions, as you're learning this and building your own confidence to trust you and be your own medicine for yourself and your animals, I really want to empower people, to all of you, to be your own medicine and trust that you've got it, that you know what is the best thing for your animals, and to talk to the priorities. Because remember, animals never stay in the past. Yes, they have reference to old trauma or events or stories, but they're a lot more willing and compliant in letting go, because all they want to do is thrive and play and be a good dog, or have fun as a cat that's pouncing around and hunting the insects in the garden. So let's just have a look and see if I can pick up any pain for Royston when I do that right now. And if you want to play along with me, I'd really be interested to know, what do you pick up from Royston? I'll ask Kelly to put a photograph of him up. Oftentimes when I'm doing energy over a distance, or I'm connecting to an animal that's lost, I like to have a photograph of them, because remember, it is a witness, what we call a witness in biogeometry, or a frequency that you can really hone in on to make sure that you got the right Royston. And that's oftentimes why I like to have the address or the human companion's name as well, to make sure that I'm tuning into the right animal. And it's really as simple as that. So tune in and let's just tap into Royston right now. And if you haven't already, just ground yourself, anchor yourself to the space that you're sitting in. And when I originally wrote the question out, I instantly felt some tightness around the pelvic girdle and the back of the sacrum. So for him, it would be sort of on the tip of the spine. Remember, a dog's spine goes into the tail. So we're talking about the part where his tail joins on to his body. And just there on either side, there's like a little bit of fascia that's contracted on the right side. And this could have happened when he was perhaps neutered, Kelly. A lot of times the fascia gets very tight there, and you'll often see an animal that's being castrated or neutered. They look like they're having difficulty when they're peeing. They kind of lean forward, and sometimes those dogs don't lift their legs up because there's a lot of contraction in the tissue on the inside of the groin. So if you know how to do some fascia release, or you'd like me to help you to work with that, I would definitely say do some palpation along the bottom of the spine, some nice massage on either edge of the spine, and go really, really slowly when you're kind of moving your fingers along the spine, for example, or along the meridian pathways or the fascia. Oftentimes they will look, or they'll go, ow, that hurts, or yes, that's the spot, or they'll turn their bodies and give you another part of the area. But I would definitely check. It's not, I wouldn't say that it's a high level pain, but it's just a tightness and a contraction that if you can get that fascia to release, you'll probably be a lot happier. And please come back and let me know if that is what you've been sensing with him, Kelly, or anyone else that is going to be listening to this on the replay, and let me know what you picked up. Remember too, everything in the body is connected to everything, and it kind of works on a tensegrity model. When you kind of look at those like kind of kids' toys that move like every breath, that the whole body on an intracellular level is connecting and communicating all the time. So oftentimes what is referred pain, so say for instance your animal is limping and you find that there's something going on in the right hip, that oftentimes it will refer from the reciprocal joint. So the tip of the right hip would be the tip of the right shoulder, and that's where I would manipulate there. Somebody said today, asked me, she said she's feeling some tightness in her sacrum. What would be a good way to release it? And I would always say release on the reciprocal, on the occiput, which is the reciprocal to the sacrum. And you work that way on the tensegrity. It's like, it's like a puppet on a string when you pull. Thus, the left leg goes up. If you pull the left arm down, the right leg goes up. So think of yourself like this puppet on a string, which is all those interwoven layers and layers of fascia that are actually what hold our bodies together, not the spinal or the musculoskeletal system, but it's the fascia that actually hold us together. So when you sometimes don't release fascia first, and you perhaps do like a chiropractic adjustment, which is working on the bones, that's why you sometimes have to go for more than one adjustment, because the fascia hasn't released first in order for the bones to realign. So without getting into an anatomy, physiology, I hope that helps. And then in regard to your other question where you said, why does he feel so anxious around strangers and what can you do to help? Anxiety can be a lot of things, and I don't know if he shows fear aggression when he gets anxious around strangers, or if he kind of shuts down. So I need more information to address that problem specifically, Kelly. So feel free to PM me or drop that on the comments when you listen to the replay. But anxiety, again, can be caused by a lot of things. It can be caused by a weak gut microbiome, which in people is a lot more prevalent because we get ulcers where animals in the wild don't, because we ruminate and we don't digest life, and we try and make sense of things from an intellectual point of view, where animals are much more prone to showing or expressing, in this moment, I'm feeling a little anxious. Remember, they say that the best way to know whether someone's got a good heart is to look to your dog, because they always can tell a detrimental energy, or a person that perhaps is showing up as one thing but doesn't, the feeling who they really are is out of integrity. So I would definitely look at, is it specific strangers? Is it men? Is it women? Is it everybody that is strange to him? And how does he express the anxiety? Because a lot of times it can be just from a lack of confidence in himself around strangers, that he feels unsafe. And there's a lot of ways that you can help to get him to return to that space of trust where he knows he can handle himself in any situation. So thank you for saying that you've enjoyed this series. It's been such a pleasure for me to bring it to you. Of course, nothing is scripted. Perhaps I should make more notes when I do these, but I kind of like to feel into the energy of what's being asked. And of course, your questions really, really help me with that. So I'll just wait for you all to ask questions on the replay then. I realize that I've been messing you around a bit in the time slot that we had these planned out for last week. And then, of course, Thursdays Facebook Live didn't replay because there was a problem between BeLive and Facebook, and just a lot of stuff around communications, which was quite interesting. Being in the 11/11 energy of November, it's all been about speaking your truth. It's about trusting, and we've really all been asked, and that certainly had me in silent meditation pretty much most of the weekend, looking at what was going on inside of my own one-on-one communications, or the way that I was speaking my truth, that I was being shut down. And I did some entity clearing around that, and also did space clear because my partner has been bringing in quite a lot of angst and stuff with his own business challenges right now. So anyway, I digress. So what I wanted to speak to, unless there is something else that's coming up for you on today, was to look at this thing about what animals want you to know about illness and the aging process, and also about transitioning. They know that we don't really die. We leave our human body suits or our animal body suits that we've had this experience in, and we just move into a different energy shape. And sometimes they will come back to you, and other times they prefer to help you from spirit. So, animals don't really have a point of view about aging or decline or getting old like we do. They're not attached to their physical bodies. So they're very much in the present, and they enjoy life to the best of their abilities. They just be great dogs, or be great cats, or be great horses. And this is oftentimes where your animal looks vital and happy and healthy, and then almost like overnight they start looking gray, and their energy levels go down a little bit, and they're just not as vital as they used to be. So they don't really hold on to the same constructs that we have about living in our bodies forever. They know that they're here to have an experience, and then when they're ready to leave, they simply leave. But sometimes their hearts are so strong and their vital organs are so strong that they oftentimes need assistance in death. And I think that they make their life much more important than they do thinking about all the what ifs of when they're going to exit or leave their bodies and move to the other side. And animals, I think, are so brilliant, and why perhaps they live for a shorter time than we do, is to teach us how to let go of our attachments of the physical, or that we're getting wiser, and to celebrate and appreciate that our PhD of life experience is what grows us into being a fully rounded and balanced human being. So just know that they really do not have a point of view around death and dying. They just know that one day they don't feel great and they're ready to prepare to leave, that there's no attachment there, and they hold no guilt or resentment. In fact, the greatest gift that you can give to your animals is to support them in those end of days, and just allow them to leave with the dignity and knowing that they were loved, and that you appreciate them. And you can always ask them, like I do with all my elderly animals before they're about to transition, is that they don't have to stay, that we'll be okay. Because I think a lot of times they hold on, just like people do, for longer than they would like, because they feel like we're not ready to go on living without them. So it's all back to doing that inner work. And I think that the most beautiful gift you can give to your animals is to say, thank you. You've been a great dog, or a great horse, or a great cat companion. And I am so appreciate the time that we've had together, and all the lessons that we've learned, and all the fun and the love that we've shared. You can go now. Go get yourself a new body. And if you want to come back, let me know how I'm going to recognize you and when you're going to come back. And they will very much of the time let you know that they are coming back. And And sometimes when they don't, like with my husky Sky, when he passed and came back in a cat's body, that was the first time I actually realized that animals do change species. Before, I always thought that they stayed in the species that they are in, but they don't. And that was just such a beautiful gift and lesson that Sky taught me when he came back in a rescue cat's body, and spent himself as an indoor cat and on the beds, which he wasn't allowed to be on as a dog. And I think that sometimes they think that they will be better. You know, they'll be able to serve us better from spirit, and they will. So don't be surprised if your animal tells you that. I think that if an animal has had an amazing life when they were in God's counsel, I can't find them. They don't tell what they discuss there. And when they're kind of leaping or in transition, they can't talk because they're using all their essential chi to move into a different space-time dimension or reality. So be patient. If you're waiting, if your animal has passed and you wanting to connect and you're hearing crickets, just be patient. They will talk to you when they're ready. They just can't focus as they are, as loved in spirit as they are here. And it's that same energy here as it is there, because for them there is no such thing as death. It's just a transition. And when you kind of enter into any dialogue, especially if you are grieving the loss of your animal in human form, be gentle with yourself. And if you feel like you're entering into that dialogue, you want to keep your energy levels high, into the highest reference point of bliss and love that you can access. And how do you do that? You just send love. If you're kind of low in sorrow, then it's harder to hear them. There's no language there. So try and keep your energies high, and especially when they're passing too, then they can hear you and receive. They don't like it when we get concerned about their health and we're worrying or fussing over them. So raise yourself as high as you can. I'm not saying that you don't need to spiritually bypass or try and pretend that you're happy. We're not talking about happiness here. We're talking about a space where you can be in allowance and receive the blessings and celebrate that animal's life if they are sick. And also, I think a key factor which a lot of people forget is you can ask your animal, will you heal from this? But I think it's very important to also ask, will they continue to live in their physical body? Because a lot of times you'll see an animal will heal from something specific, and then they'll create something else, and they will leave their body. So the more exact that you can get around how you're questioning, the better. And if you want to talk to anyone, even in grief, find something to always be in active appreciation of happiness, of love, and you'll get a very clear heart sense that they are there. They always come, and they're always there. You just can't find them if you're not dialing into that same frequency. So if you're feeling sad, allow that sadness to be there, and then expand to grief, and then get a little mad, and then get a little happier and a little higher. And when you're close enough, you'll know they're there, and you'll hear them. And I think that all dogs really want us to know our power. I think horses share the same, as do all the animals, to really acknowledge our leadership qualities and that we are unconditional love, that you can love whatever arises. And if you kind of see an animal charging around in your space, oftentimes they're seeing entities, or they're seeing their buddy come back without a body. And sometimes you'll see them oversoul. So they don't take up occupancy in your animal's, another one of your animal's bodies. permanently. They kind of come in as an oversoul to just remind you that they're still with you. So there's a lot of lovely, juicy material on that, and how to receive messages from your animals in spirit, and your angels, your what I call team players. So your team of spirit guides, which include your ancestral guides and helping spirits. And also a big part of this, I think anybody that's living in today's world needs to know, is how to identify different types of entities, what are detrimental energies, what are helping spirits, and how to clear your space and your body and your animals' bodies from entities that have taken up and or are occupying bodies. You can have team spirits and team helpers, but you never want other entities in your body. And this was one of the sort of driving forces from all the work that I've been doing with my private clients, and also in conversation with so many people lately that don't really know what the heck is going on, and having mirrors jumping off walls, and some of the trickster prankster energy showing up a lot. Other things that people have been commenting on is that when they've been working with the entities or don't know what they are, that they leave marks, like looks like, black spots, and very obvious signs that they've been there and that they're messing with you. So this is why I put that entire Talk to the Entities class into that White Friday 197 special offer, where you're also going to get all the my top 5 life-saving first aid hands-on or off-body processes, so that you can use them while you're waiting for an ambulance to arrive, or waiting to get your animal to an emergency clinic. And I really wanted to include some of my best, juiciest stuff in there that really goes deeper than you're going to get in most of the animal communication classes out there. So if you haven't, have a look at that and see if it's calling to you. That's the value of that. It was a 2-day course. The entity class on its own is well over $1,000. So you can get it for a limited time for only $197. Yeah, so I wanted to say that, and my dog is saying hell yes. And I could go on and on. I didn't want to turn this into a sales prompt or anything like that, but just know that animals really are emotional healers, and they really teach from their powerful big heart congruence. And it's very potent when you can get that. And they get that all disease has a very spiritual base, which is why when we work through the levels of healing, the body's healing happens on the highest or sattvic quality of the gunas. So that's for me where they've taught me that healing really happens, is on that spiritual level. And, for example, things like laminitis showing up in a horse will always be that horse's soul urge as an energetic healer is to show the human companion where they are needing to step up and where they are not moving forward in what they want to be doing. They have been there already with you, and they're urging you forward at great expense to their own bodies to demonstrate your stuckness, because that is their heart-based soul contract with you. So I once had a client that said, gosh, her horse kept going lame. And when we got into session, and her horse was like, thank goodness, I've got you to speak to my person about all of the places where they're stuck and in guilt. It did turn out that she was feeling really, really guilty that she wasn't able to ride her horse more because she just changed jobs, and her current schedule wasn't allowing her to get out to ride him as every day like she used to. So in order for him to take her out of this guilt trip that she was giving herself, he made himself lame so that she could stop beating herself up about the fact that she couldn't ride him or be with him enough. So they're really, really smart when it comes to comes to giving us what we're asking for. So you got to be really careful about what it is you are asking for. I remember I had another client who was very, very concerned because her 2 Siamese cats had sort of gone on a hunger strike. They just stopped eating for a couple of days, and she was getting really, really worried because you know that if a cat specifically doesn't eat for 2 days, they could potentially die. They develop fatty liver, and their bodies just can't get through that. So luckily she'd been working with me for a while, so she'd gotten them to the vet and had given them some sub-Q fluids and some intravenous feeding just to pump them up again. And then when we sort of dived in, and I asked the one little guy, his name was Gizmo, what was going on, he said, well, they were very, very concerned because they'd heard her and her partner fighting over money, or the concern that they were having was there wasn't enough money coming in to make ends meet, and they were worried about the future and losing their house and everything. So these 2 took it upon themselves to stop eating, because they said, well, if they don't have to buy food for us, then they'll have enough money for the other things that they needed, which is as endearing and as wonderful as it is. They do understand us, and they will pick up on our stresses and do some really radical things, like going on a hunger strike or developing lameness to cut yourself some slack. So saying no or asking them not to, or it doesn't really help if that's part of the soul contract that they came into their life to teach you. But you can, again, like we were doing the other day on day 4 with two-way open communication of negotiation and compromise. Oftentimes they are willing to make a compromise and support you by not being so extreme. And it just is an incredible process, as I'm sure by now you're starting to recognize, is that gosh, they have so many contracts with us to make us see our own self-worth, and you will know what an animal has come into your life with in that soul contract, because your heart kind of just leaps out and it grabs your full attention. And with some of the big contracts, they are predestined. Some are coming back that are not completed, and others don't. So they prefer to work with you from spirit, as I said. So I hope that sort of helps you in sort of turning down the guilt buttons on yourself and allowing yourself to have the vulnerability to never put barriers up because you're afraid what the animals are going to teach you is going to be too painful, or you don't like to see them suffer. So they continue to do that until they get your attention and you work through the lessons together. So be vulnerable, and please don't put up any kind of barrier to seeing any part of you or to your animal. We're whole and complete just as we are. There's nothing to fix, and our animals certainly don't want you to think that they need fixing. So as I spoke to yesterday on Tuesday Choice Day, remember to focus 90% of your energy on what is working and what you do appreciate, and less than 10% on worry and consternation. Get the support that you need, get the training that you need, so that you don't have to spend excessive energy worrying about things that are outside of your control, whether that is with your animals or in other areas of your life. And remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. So, most of us, until we learn how to practice and use our sixth sense and use our spidey muscles and our intuition, we spend our entire lives trying to prove that we're enough, trying to prove how good we are, while we're beating ourselves up to show how bad we are to ourselves, which is pretty insane. So you've got to get that, you're a liar. Because most of the time we're never honest, and lying for you is being willing to tell a person what they want to hear, or the animal what you think they need, and not want you want them to hear, if that makes sense. Manipulation is a little different. Manipulation is telling them what they want to hear, not what you want them to hear. So you can't manipulate animals. You know, they see right through our lies and our limitations and our self-harm, and they mirror back to us all the places where we're not being present with ourselves. So you can't manipulate an animal from behind a barrier. You can't manipulate people from behind a barrier or a heart wall, or whatever you call them. Barriers and boundaries are just a creation of your making, and you create them with such intensity that they create separation, and then you sort of cast yourself into exile or make promises to never ever do that, or you'll never love an animal again, or just not trust again. So just know that as an infinite being, you can't have boundaries, right? You are borderless, and everything really starts to shift and change from that space. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that. Hi, Mariette. I don't know if you have any questions. I've sort of been rambling on to myself because no one's been on here live with me today, probably due to all my screw-ups with communications and trying to deliver this 5-day mini series to you. But I touched a little bit today on, you know, what animals want you to know about aging and illness and disease, and how to support them through those processes by doing our own internal work and healing our own subconscious beliefs and patterns, and do the shadow work and be willing to be brave enough to move through fear and see underneath it, because most of the time we react because we're afraid of being judged or abandoned or rejected, and animals don't have that point of view about being themselves or being, you know, unique in who they're being. So I hope you found that helpful. Obviously there is so much more to this, and we've literally just touched a little deeper into some of the less talked about comments that are out there in general animal communications or intuitive communication with other species. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. Stay posted. Hi, Leona. And just finishing off for today. So I'm sorry again about the disruption between the last lesson on Thursday and me showing up today on Wednesday, due to a whole lot of things that were outside of my control. But I'm here. Enjoy the replay. If you have any questions or comments about any of what we've discovered and explored together over the last few days, please let me know, and do go and have a look at that special offer that I put together, so that you can learn and be empowered and confident that you can work with entities. There's nothing to be afraid of if you know what you're dealing with, and it can be an incredibly empowering place to be able to do that. My daughter, from the minute that she went to preschool, knew how to clear entities off of her and off of the space, and it's life-changing. It really is. As are the fast aid or the first aid, hands-on or off-body processes that I'm sharing in that special bundle as well. So hi, Kelly. Yeah, I kind of touched on those wonderful questions that you sent in. So thank you for asking. And if you want any more information on any of these topics, please let me know, and I'll be happy to do that. I'll probably be offering a free webinar training in answer to more of your questions, and we'll be doing more of these Q&As. If you're asking me questions, I'd be happy to give you my insight on them. So just remember, we're always looking for what else is possible. We're not looking for an answer or a conclusion. We're nothing greater than that can show up. And that is my dream, that we all can do our own work, receive the gifts from our animal companions, and some of the people that push our buttons are our greatest teachers. So embrace it all, celebrate what is working, don't focus so much on what's not working, and keep the questions coming, and I will be here to answer them for you. All right, take care, everyone. Lots of love. Bye.